The galaxy was wide, filled with countless stars, planets, and civilizations. Among them, the Galactic Dominion was one of the most powerful coalitions. It was made up of several alien species who had joined together for conquest, trade, and domination. They had already defeated dozens of young civilizations across the stars. Each time it was the same. They found a planet, studied its people, and then crushed them with advanced technology. Most species surrendered quickly once they saw the size of the Dominion fleets. To the Dominion, Earth was nothing more than another target. It was a small blue planet on the edge of a spiral galaxy. Its people had only just begun exploring space. Their ships were weak, their weapons primitive, and their nations divided. The Dominion expected no resistance. The leaders believed this conquest would be one of the easiest in their history. Admiral Xyrix, commander of the Dominion fleet assigned to Earth, stood in the observation chamber of his flagship. The giant vessel hovered silently in the shadow of Earth's moon, cloaked by advanced stealth fields. His tall insect-like body shifted slightly as he watched the blue planet below. His compound eyes glowed faintly. To him, Earth looked calm, almost fragile. "These humans have no chance," he said in his clicking alien tongue. "Their armies are small. Their fleets are nothing. This will be quick." His officers nodded in agreement. They had already scanned the planet. They saw nuclear weapons, aircraft, submarines, and tanks. To them, these machines were toys, old and clumsy compared to plasma cannons and shielded warships. The Dominion thought the humans would surrender as soon as they realized what was happening. But far below, on Earth, humans were not as blind as the aliens believed. Strange signals in a military base in Colorado. Deep inside the mountain, a group of analysts were studying radar screens and satellite data. One of them, Captain James Walker, leaned forward, frowning at his monitor. "Something's off," he muttered. He had been scanning for unusual patterns in Earth's orbit. For days, small disturbances had appeared in the satellite signals. At first, he thought it was a glitch, but the patterns were too consistent. "What is it?" asked Major Collins, his superior. "Interference," Walker replied. "But not the usual kind. It's like something big is up there. Bending signals, blocking transmissions. I think something is hiding." Collins raised an eyebrow. "You mean a satellite?" Walker shook his head. "No, bigger, much bigger." The major didn't answer right away. He just stared at the data, then picked up the phone to call higher command. Across the world, in Russia, China, Europe, and other places, similar reports started to appear. Observers noticed odd readings, strange energy traces, and shadows moving across the sky where no satellites should be. Silent orbit up above, Dominion ships glided through space like sharks moving through water. They thought they were invisible. Their cloaks bent light, absorbed radar, and blocked transmissions. But what they didn't realize was that human technology, though primitive in some ways, had strengths they had never faced before. Humans had many satellites, radar networks, and communication systems. Even the smallest disturbance in the sky could be noticed by someone, somewhere. The aliens watched Earth carefully. They saw airplanes flying across the oceans, ships moving through the seas, and cars driving on the roads. To them, it looked disorganized. They mistook human freedom and variety for weakness. "They are divided," Admiral Xyrix said confidently. "Look at them. Different nations, different flags, different leaders. They will never unite in time. Once we strike, they will fall into chaos." His officers agreed. But one of them, a younger strategist named Velra, hesitated. "Admiral," she said, "the humans may look divided, but our scans show rapid communication between their militaries. Some of them are already adjusting to our presence." Xyrix clicked his jaws in irritation. "It will not matter. By the time they understand, we will already control their skies." Velra remained silent, but deep inside, she had doubts. She had studied history and knew that underestimating a species was always dangerous. The first preparations back on Earth, governments were on high alert. Strange meetings were called in the middle of the night. Military commanders gathered in secret rooms discussing possibilities they had never expected. In Washington, President Ellis sat with generals around a large table. The room was quiet except for the hum of machines. "You're telling me there's something in orbit?" Ellis asked, his voice calm but firm. General Harris nodded. "Yes, sir. Multiple objects. They're large but cloaked. Our satellites can't see them directly, but the interference patterns suggest warships." Ellis looked around the table. Some of the advisors shifted uncomfortably. One finally spoke. Aliens? Are we really saying this? Harris replied simply, yes. The room fell silent. The idea was shocking, almost unbelievable. But the data didn't lie. Across the ocean in Beijing, a similar meeting was happening. In Moscow, the same. Everywhere, leaders were realizing that Earth was not alone, and that someone was watching them. Human resolve, while politicians debated, the military moved fast. Orders were given quietly. Fighter jets were prepared. Submarines moved into new positions under the seas. Satellites were adjusted to scan unusual areas of the sky. Special forces were placed on standby. The world had not seen such a level of secret preparation in decades. Old rivalries were pushed aside. For the first time, generals from different nations began to share information quickly, knowing that they all faced the same danger. In a base in the Pacific, Commander Maria Sanchez spoke to her team of pilots. "Listen up," she said. "We don't know exactly what's out there, but something is coming. We are the first line of defense. Stay sharp, trust your training, and be ready for anything." Her pilots nodded. None of them had ever trained for alien contact, but all of them were ready to protect their world. The calm. Before the storm high above, Admiral Zyrex prepared for the first strike. His fleet of warships adjusted positions silently. The plan was simple. Strike Earth's communication systems, destroy its defenses, and force surrender. But what he didn't know was that Earth was already watching. Human radars had tracked the disturbances. Human commanders had guessed the alien strategy. Earth was not sleeping, it was waiting. On the dark side of the planet, a U.S. Navy submarine silently loaded its torpedoes. In Europe, missile batteries were adjusted to new coordinates. In Asia, fighter squadrons fueled up. In Africa and South America, radar teams scanned the skies carefully. The whole world, though still divided by borders and politics, was slowly becoming united in one thing: survival. Ending of Part 1. The night before the invasion, Earth looked peaceful from space. Cities glowed with lights, oceans shimmered in the moonlight, and clouds drifted slowly across the sky. To Admiral Zyrex, it was the calm before his easy victory, but down below, humans were preparing. They were not as weak as he believed. They had no plasma cannons, no energy shields, and no giant fleets. But they had something else: determination, unity in crisis, and the will to fight for their home. The stage was set. The galaxy thought Earth would be easy. Soon the aliens would learn just how wrong they were. The night was quiet across most of Earth, but silence was only on the surface. Hidden in the dark sky above, the Galactic Dominion fleet prepared for war. Admiral Zyrex stood inside the control chamber of his flagship. The huge transparent window showed Earth, shining peacefully in blue and white. He did not see peace. He saw prey. "Begin the attack," he ordered. His voice was sharp and filled with confidence. All across orbit, alien warships moved into formation. Their weapons glowed faintly as they charged. The Dominion's plan was simple: strike hard, strike fast, and break Earth's defenses before humans could react. The first blows without warning, beams of bright energy shot downward from orbit. The first targets were communication satellites. One by one, they exploded into fireballs in the sky. The beams then struck at military bases. In California, a base shook violently as plasma bolts slammed into hangars and runways. Planes burst into flames before they could take off. In Eastern Europe, a radar installation was struck, leaving a smoking crater. Across Asia, command centers lost power as alien pulses fried electronics. The Dominion fleet moved with cold precision. Their strategy was to blind Earth, cut its lines of communication, and destroy morale. Admiral Zyrex smiled as explosions lit up the atmosphere. "Too easy," he said. But down below, humans were not panicking. They were already moving. Human response in Colorado, Captain James Walker sat at his console. The base shook as alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the command center. "Report," shouted Major Collins. Walker's fingers flew over the keyboard. "Satellites are down, but ground radar still active. Enemy ships detected in low orbit. Firing solutions ready." General Harris entered the room, his uniform neat even in the chaos. His voice was calm. "Launch the countermeasures. Alert all commands. Let them know we are under attack." Across the world, similar scenes unfolded. Sirens wailed in Russian bunkers. Chinese fighter jets roared down runways. French and British naval ships prepared their missiles. For the first time in history, Nearly every military force on Earth faced the same enemy: battle over the Pacific. The Dominion soon focused on the Pacific Ocean. It was wide and open, a perfect place to deploy their ground forces later. Several massive alien warships descended into the upper atmosphere, glowing with energy. But waiting below was the United States Pacific Fleet, joined by ships from allied nations. Aircraft carriers, destroyers, submarines, and cruisers formed a line of steel across the ocean. Admiral Reynolds stood on the bridge of his carrier, the USS Liberty. His eyes were locked on the sky where strange lights shimmered like stars. Enemy contact confirmed, his officer reported. Reynolds gave the order without hesitation. "Launch everything. Let's show them Earth will not bow." Fighter jets screamed into the sky, their afterburners blazing. Missiles rose from ships in great numbers, streaking toward the glowing alien shapes. The Dominion ships responded, their energy shields flickering to life. Plasma bolts cut through the night, striking down dozens of missiles. Alien fighters, sleek and silver, darted through the clouds, firing energy beams at human aircraft. But the humans did not fight as the aliens expected. Overwhelming fire. The Dominion had fought many species before. Usually, enemies fired a few strong weapons which were blocked by their shields. But humans attacked differently. Instead of a few powerful shots, they launched hundreds, thousands of projectiles. Missiles, torpedoes, artillery shells, and even modified anti-aircraft weapons filled the skies. The sheer number of attacks overwhelmed the alien defenses. A Dominion cruiser was the first to fall. Its shield flickered under the relentless barrage, then collapsed. A swarm of missiles struck its hull, causing explosions that tore through the massive ship. It fell into the ocean in a ball of fire. On the Liberty, Admiral Reynolds clenched his fist. "We got one," he said softly. The crew around him cheered, even as more alien fire rained down. The battle raged on. Human jets darted between beams of plasma, launching volleys of missiles before pulling away. Submarines rose just below the surface, firing torpedoes at alien ships. Some were destroyed instantly, but others hit their targets with deadly effect. Another Dominion ship exploded, its wreckage scattering across the ocean. Alien Shock Admiral Xyrix watched the battle with disbelief. His ships were supposed to crush Earth with ease. Instead, 2 of his cruisers were gone and several more were damaged. The humans were losing many jets and ships, but they kept fighting with reckless determination. "How is this possible?" he hissed. Velra, the younger strategist, looked at him calmly. "Admiral, they use numbers, not just power. Their attacks are not refined, but they are relentless. And they are creative." Xyrix clicked his jaws in frustration. "Creativity is not enough. They are primitive." Velra did not argue, but she knew the truth. Humanity was not breaking. They were adapting. Ground war begins frustrated. Xyrix decided to deploy ground forces. Large troop carriers descended from orbit, aiming for coastal cities near the Pacific. The plan was to capture key points and force the humans into surrender. In Manila, the sky turned red as alien dropships descended. Civilians screamed and ran for shelter, but even before the aliens landed, Philippine and Allied soldiers were waiting. Tanks rolled into the streets and infantry took positions in buildings. The first alien squad stepped out, tall armored warriors with glowing rifles. They expected panic. Instead, they were met with gunfire. The streets became a battlefield. Alien armor was strong, but human bullets, rockets, and explosives tore through weak points. Soldiers moved in squads, ambushing the invaders from alleyways and rooftops. Civilians helped by carrying supplies, guiding troops, and even setting traps. The Dominion had never faced urban warfare like this. Their enemies usually fought in the open, but humans turned every street into a fortress. Unity and chaos across the planet. News spread quickly. People everywhere knew Earth was under attack. Fear existed, but so did something stronger: unity. In Paris, crowds filled the streets, not in panic but in determination, waving flags and volunteering to help. In Cairo, engineers worked overnight to repair damaged power grids. In Tokyo, civilians organized shelters for families. For the first time, Earth was not divided. Different nations shared intelligence, weapons, and strategies. Old enemies called each other allies. The world stood together. Turning point in the Pacific back at sea, the battle continued. Human losses were heavy, but the Dominion was no longer in control. A U.S. submarine, the Seawolf, crept close to a massive alien battleship. Using a special torpedo modified with experimental guidance, it struck the ship's weak spot near the engine. The explosion tore through the hull, and the giant warship began to sink, crashing into the ocean with a thunderous roar. The crew of the Seawolf cheered in triumph. Across the fleet, messages spread. Another alien ship destroyed. On his flagship, Admiral Reynolds smiled grimly. "They thought we were easy," he said. They were wrong. Alien realization. For the first time, Admiral Xerix felt a small ripple of fear. His fleet was still powerful, but losses were real, and the humans were not breaking as expected. "These creatures," he whispered, "they are not like the others." Velra, standing beside him, finally spoke. "Admiral, they fight not only with weapons, but with spirit. Every loss makes them stronger, not weaker. If we continue to underestimate them, this war will not be easy." Xerix glared at her but said nothing. Deep down, he knew she was right. Ending of Part 2. The first clash was over, but the war had only begun. Across the Pacific, the ocean still burned with wreckage. Alien ships hovered in the sky, but now they carried scars. Human fleets were battered, but they were still afloat, still fighting. On the ground, soldiers and civilians stood side by side, ready for the next wave. The world had changed in one night. The Galactic Dominion had come believing Earth was weak. But in the smoke of battle, it became clear humanity was not going to surrender. The first clash was only the beginning, and already the galaxy had a new lesson. Earth was not easy prey. The first clash had ended, but the war was far from over. Across Earth, smoke still rose from ruined bases, burning ships, and shattered cities. The Galactic Dominion believed humanity would break after the first strike. Instead, the opposite happened. The more destruction humans saw, the stronger their resolve became. In space, Dominion ships remained in orbit, preparing for a second wave. On Earth, humans gathered their strength, planning and inventing. What the aliens had not expected was the unique human ability to adapt quickly, to turn weakness into strength, and to fight with imagination. This was the beginning of humanity's greatest weapon: ingenuity. Alien occupation. Attempts. Admiral Xerix was frustrated. His forces had won many battles across the stars. Most species surrendered after losing a few ships or seeing their armies crushed. But the humans were different. They resisted everywhere. "Deploy more troops," Xerix commanded. "We will take their cities one by one. Once their leaders fall, the rest will follow." Across the globe, Dominion dropships descended, releasing squads of armored soldiers. They landed in cities, villages, and near military bases. Their rifles glowed, their armor shimmered, and their orders were simple: occupy, control, dominate. But they met something they had never faced before: human guerrilla warfare. Street battles in South America. Dominion forces marched into Sao Paulo. They expected civilians to run or hide. Instead, resistance fighters had already prepared. As alien soldiers entered a narrow street, explosives hidden in cars detonated, trapping them. From rooftops, human fighters rained gunfire and grenades. The aliens responded with plasma blasts, but the humans scattered, disappearing into alleys like smoke. In Africa, Dominion troops tried to take Nairobi, but the city had been turned into a maze of defenses. Militias worked with soldiers, blocking roads, digging tunnels, and ambushing patrols. Every corner became a battlefield. In Europe, underground tunnels connected safe houses. Resistance groups used them to strike suddenly, then vanish before the aliens could react. The aliens had advanced technology, but humans had creativity. They used the terrain, the cities, and even their knowledge of alien weaknesses to fight back. Captured technology. One night in Manila, a Dominion transport ship was shot down by a combined missile and artillery strike. The burning wreckage crashed outside the city. Special forces rushed to the site before the aliens could destroy it. Inside, they found damaged weapons, pieces of armor, and fragments of alien computers. The scientists and engineers who examined them were amazed. Dr. Aisha Rahman, a physicist from Pakistan, studied a small glowing device. "Their shields work on frequency modulation," she explained. "If we match the right frequency, we can disrupt them." Colonel Davis, standing nearby, asked, "Can we build something to use that?" Aisha smiled. "Yes, we can improvise." Soon, laboratories across the world began experimenting. Engineers rewired old radar systems into shield disruptors. Technicians modified missiles to lock onto alien energy signatures. Mechanics rebuilt tanks with new armor plating designed to absorb plasma blasts. Every piece of alien technology that fell into human hands became the seed of something new. Communication warfare. Meanwhile, hackers and signal experts worked tirelessly. In Berlin, a team of young programmers sat in a basement filled with wires and glowing screens. They had managed to intercept fragments of Dominion communication. "If we can crack their code," one of them said, "we can send fake orders." It was not easy. Alien language was complex, filled with strange signals and tones. But humans were persistent. Day after day, they worked. Finally, they managed to copy a short command phrase. They tested it carefully, sending a false signal to a Dominion patrol ship above Europe. To their amazement, the alien ship suddenly turned and fired at another Dominion vessel. Mistaking it for the enemy, the hackers laughed in disbelief. It worked. The trick did not last long, but it showed something powerful. Human cyber warfare could disrupt even the most advanced alien systems. Stories of ingenuity everywhere. Small acts of creativity turned into big victories. In Alaska, engineers used old oil pipelines to channel explosives, setting traps for alien walkers. In the Middle East, soldiers used decoy heat sources to confuse Dominion targeting systems. In India, scientists turned weather satellites into improvised scanners, tracking cloaked ships. In Australia, farmers attached rocket launchers to trucks, creating mobile anti-air platforms. The aliens saw these tactics as crude, even foolish. But one by one, Dominion patrols fell, their arrogance turning into frustration. Civilian courage. What surprised the Dominion most was not just the military but the civilians. Entire populations refused to surrender. In Poland, a group of school teachers organized their students to create supply routes for soldiers. In Mexico, fishermen used their boats to transport weapons across rivers. In South Korea, civilians built barricades and handed food to soldiers fighting in the streets. Everywhere, people worked together. Humanity was not a single army, but millions of hearts and minds united by the will to survive. Alien doubts. On the flagship, Admiral Zyrex watched reports with growing anger. Why do they keep resisting? Why do they not break? Velra, the strategist, answered calmly. Because they fight differently. For them, every loss is not defeat, it is fuel. They learn from it. They adapt. Zyrex slammed his claws against the console. We are the Dominion. We cannot be defeated by primitives. But in his heart, even he began to feel doubt. Velra looked at the planet below. Admiral, if we continue like this, it will not be conquest. It will be war without end. Human counterstrikes by now. Humans had learned enough to fight back in bigger ways. Coordinated strikes began against alien positions. In the Pacific, human navies worked together. Using shield disruptors built from captured tech, they launched missiles that finally penetrated Dominion defenses with precision. 2 more alien warships fell. In the Middle East, resistance fighters trapped an alien command unit in the desert using decoys. Artillery fire destroyed the entire group before they could retreat. In Eastern Europe, hacked Dominion signals misdirected an alien supply convoy into an ambush. Tanks and drones tore it apart. Each victory was small compared to the Dominion's full strength. But together they showed something greater. Humanity was learning faster than the aliens expected. Hope in the darkness. Inside a hidden bunker in London, world leaders gathered through secure video links. For once there were no arguments, no rivalries. Only one question remained: how to survive together. General Harris spoke firmly. The aliens are powerful but not invincible. We've proven we can hurt them. If we keep adapting, if we keep working together, we can win. President Ellis nodded. Then we fight. Not as nations, but as one world. For the first time in history, Earth was united by a single purpose: the Dominion's mistake. The Dominion believed fear would control humanity. Instead, their attacks had awakened something stronger. In space, their fleet still looked powerful. But on Earth, a storm was building, a storm of human ingenuity, courage, and unity. For every alien strike, humans found a counter. For every new weapon, they invented an answer. And for every fallen city, another rose in defiance. Admiral Zyrex had thought Earth would be an easy conquest. Now he realized something dangerous. This war was not going to plan. Ending of Part 3, the world was still burning. Cities lay in ruins, soldiers bled on battlefields, and millions lived in fear. But there was also something new in the air: hope. Humans had shown they could fight back. They had taken alien weapons, cracked alien codes, and turned every weakness into strength. They had shown creativity, resilience, and unity like never before. The Galactic Dominion had never faced such an enemy before. They had expected surrender. Instead, they had awakened a world that would never kneel. The war was far from over, but humanity was ready. The age of human ingenuity had begun, and it would change everything. The war had reached a turning point. The Galactic Dominion still had powerful fleets in orbit, but they no longer held complete control. Humanity had survived the first strikes, fought in the streets, and learned from every battle. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion faced an enemy that did not collapse in fear, but grew stronger with each loss. Across Earth, people whispered the same thought: we can fight back. Rising hope in underground bunkers, on naval ships and inside hidden labs, humans worked day and night. Engineers refined shield disruptors. Hackers created better codes to interfere with alien communications. Soldiers trained for combined operations with tactics designed to exploit Dominion weaknesses. Everywhere, the sense of despair was slowly being replaced with determination. In Washington, General Harris spoke to his staff. "This is our chance. We've learned their weaknesses. Their shields can be broken. Their ships can be sunk. Their troops are not invincible. Now it's time for a counterattack." Similar voices rose across the world. In Moscow, in Beijing, in London, in New Delhi, in Cape Town, leaders and generals agreed. Humanity was ready to strike back, not just to defend, but to take the fight to the invaders. United forces. The idea was simple, but powerful: global unity. For the first time in history, armies from every continent coordinated under a single command. Information flowed freely between nations. Supplies were shared. Plans were drafted together. At a secret meeting, commanders from different countries stood around a digital map of the Earth. Lights marked alien positions across the globe. "We hit them everywhere at once," said Commander Maria Sanchez from the Pacific Fleet. "If we strike together, their forces will be stretched thin." General Petrov from Russia nodded. "We attack in waves. First, break their orbital fleets, then cut off their ground troops. Finally, push them out completely." No one argued. Humanity had been divided for centuries, but the invasion had changed everything. Now they fought not as Americans, Russians, Chinese, or Africans. They fought as humans. Space preparations, one of the boldest ideas, came from scientists and engineers working in space programs. The Dominion controlled the skies, but humans still had rockets, old ones meant for satellites. Cargo or exploration Dr. Aisha Rahman, who had studied alien shields, stood before a group of scientists in a launch facility. "We can turn rockets into weapons," she explained. "Not nuclear, not plasma. Simple kinetic strikes, thousands of pieces of metal moving at high speed. Their shields cannot block everything." The room buzzed with excitement. The plan was dangerous, but it might work. Rockets were quickly prepared, filled not with satellites but with heavy rods of tungsten. Once launched, they would rain down on Dominion ships like spears from the sky. The offensive begins. The counterattack began at dawn. Across the world, missile silos opened. Naval fleets launched volleys and fighter jets roared into the sky. From spaceports, rockets carrying kinetic projectiles blasted upward. The Dominion fleet was caught off guard. They expected humans to defend cities, not strike into orbit. Suddenly, their shields flickered under the storm of projectiles. One massive Dominion battleship above Europe was pierced by dozens of tungsten rods. It cracked apart in a blinding explosion, pieces burning as they fell through the atmosphere. "Direct hit," shouted a technician in Berlin as the control room erupted in cheers. Above Asia, coordinated missile strikes forced alien cruisers to retreat higher into orbit. Over the Pacific, fighter jets worked with submarines to corner another warship, striking it until its core exploded in the night sky. The humans had taken the battle to space, and won. Ground counterstrikes. While the skies burned, soldiers on the ground began their push. Across South America, resistance fighters and armies launched assaults on alien strongholds. In Africa, combined units stormed occupied bases, reclaiming cities with courage and speed. In Manila, where Dominion troops had once marched confidently, human forces advanced street by street. Tanks fired, drones swarmed, and soldiers fought with determination. Civilians waved flags from windows, cheering as alien soldiers retreated. In Eastern Europe, a brilliant trick was used. Engineers built fake energy signals that lured Dominion forces into a massive ambush. Artillery and aircraft destroyed the trapped invaders, leaving no survivors. Everywhere the story was the same. Humans pushing forward, aliens retreating. The great naval battle, one of the largest battles, took place in the Pacific Ocean. The Dominion had kept several of their biggest ships there, hoping to control supply routes and prepare for a full invasion. But humanity was ready. Fleets from the United States, Japan, Australia, and other allies gathered in a massive formation. Submarines lurked below. Carriers launched aircraft above, and destroyers prepared missile volleys. Admiral Reynolds stood on the deck of the USS Liberty. "This is it," he told his officers. "The battle for our oceans." The sky filled with fire as Dominion ships descended. Plasma bolts turned the waves into steam. Missiles rose from every human ship, streaking toward the enemy. For hours, the battle raged. Dozens of human vessels were lost, but the alien fleet suffered too. One by one, Dominion ships cracked under the endless assault. Finally, the largest alien dreadnought, towering like a floating mountain, was struck by coordinated torpedoes from 6 submarines. The explosion lit the ocean like a sunrise. Humanity had won the Pacific. Dominion panic on his flagship. Admiral Zyrex watched the reports with disbelief. His fleet was collapsing. Ships destroyed, ground troops cut off, communication systems disrupted. "This is impossible," he hissed. "They should not have this strength." Velra, the strategist, spoke calmly. "It is not their weapons, Admiral. It is their spirit. They fight with everything, machines, cities, mines, even their bare hands. Every person is a soldier. We underestimated them." Zyrex clenched his claws. He did not want to admit it, but she was right. The Dominion had never faced an enemy like humanity. Unity in action. What made the difference was not just technology or weapons, but unity. In Europe, American pilots flew side by side with Russian squadrons. In Asia, Chinese and Indian troops fought together in the same units. In Africa, soldiers from many nations stood shoulder to shoulder. Borders, languages, and rivalries no longer mattered. Only one thing mattered: survival. For the first time, Earth was one army, and that army was winning. A message to the world as victories grew, leaders decided it was time to speak to their people. President Ellis, standing with leaders from many nations, appeared on a broadcast that reached billions. "My fellow humans," he said, his voice steady and strong. "We have stood against an enemy from the stars. They thought we were weak. They thought we would surrender. But we have shown them the truth. We are strong, we are united, and we are fighting back." Across the world, people cheered, cried, and raised their fists. It was no longer just a fight for survival. It was a fight for victory. The push to the skies with alien ground troops in retreat and naval control secured. Humanity prepared for the boldest step yet, attacking the main Dominion fleet in orbit. Space agencies worked together, launching more rockets. Some carried weapons. Others carried supplies to experimental human-controlled alien ships captured in earlier battles. For the first time, humans prepared to take the war beyond the atmosphere. Commander Maria Sanchez, chosen to lead one of the first space missions, stood with her crew inside a modified alien ship. She placed her hand on the controls. "We're going to show them," she said. "Earth fights in the skies, too." Ending of Part 4, the counterattack had succeeded. Alien ships were burning in the skies. Their ground forces were in retreat, and humanity stood stronger than ever. The Galactic Dominion had expected an easy victory, but instead they faced defeat after defeat. Their once proud fleet was scarred, their commanders shaken, and their armies cut off. But the war was not over. Admiral Zyrex still commanded many ships. The Dominion still had weapons and pride. They would not retreat without a final attempt to crush humanity. Yet for the first time, the balance had shifted. Earth was no longer just defending. Earth was fighting back. The global counterattack had begun, and soon the final battles would decide the fate of the planet, and perhaps the galaxy. The war between Earth and the Galactic Dominion was reaching its final stage. Humanity had already surprised the invaders with clever tactics, unbreakable will, and a unity that no alien commander had expected. The Dominion fleet still lingered in orbit, but they were weakened, scattered, and filled with doubt. Now, the moment had come for the final battle. the strike that would decide the future of Earth and prove to the galaxy that humanity was not prey, but a force to be respected. The last Dominion Plan Admiral Zyrex stood inside his damaged flagship. The screens around him flickered with reports of destroyed cruisers and lost divisions. His claws tapped against the control table in frustration. This war should have ended long ago, he growled. This planet was supposed to be simple prey. Velra, the strategist, looked at him with calm eyes. The humans are not like others. They are adaptive. They turn weakness into strength. Every time we strike, they learn. Every time we kill, they rise stronger. Zyrex's pride was wounded, but he still had one option. Then we end this with overwhelming fire. Gather the remaining fleet. We burn their cities until nothing remains. Velra hesitated. She respected her commander, but could not ignore the truth. If we destroy their world, Admiral, we will create martyrs. The galaxy will see us as monsters, not rulers. Are you certain this is wise? But Zyrex would not listen. His pride was louder than reason. Humanity prepares on Earth. Leaders knew the enemy was gathering for one last strike. General Harris spoke to his commanders in the global war room. The digital map of the planet glowed with red markers showing Dominion positions. They're planning something massive, Harris said. If they succeed, Earth will burn. But we won't let them. This time we take the fight to their fleet. Commander Maria Sanchez, now preparing to lead the first human-controlled alien ship into battle, stood tall. We've beaten them on land, on sea, and in the skies. Now we finish this in orbit. Around the world, scientists and engineers worked without rest. More rockets were prepared. Captured alien weapons were studied and mounted onto human ships. Crews trained for zero-gravity combat. Every person, soldier or civilian, felt the weight of the coming battle. It was not just about survival anymore. It was about proving to the stars that Earth would never bow. The launch, the day of the final battle, arrived. All over the planet, launch towers rumbled as rockets carrying weapons and ships blasted into space. Naval carriers deployed drones capable of flying into orbit. Submarines launched missiles designed to strike upward into the skies. For the first time, Earth's armies were not only defending, they were invading the void itself. Maria Sanchez sat in the pilot's chair of the alien vessel now painted with Earth's flag. Her crew, made up of soldiers from many nations, strapped themselves in. Engines online, said her engineer. Shield stable, reported the technician. Maria took a deep breath. Then let's show them what humans can do. The ship rose from the atmosphere, joining dozens of others. Above, the vast Dominion fleet waited like predators. The battle was about to begin. Clash in orbit, the first wave hit with terrifying force. Dominion battleships fired plasma beams that lit the void like suns. Explosions bloomed as human rockets slammed into their shields. The space above Earth became a storm of light and fire. Inside her ship, Maria gripped the controls. Target their cruisers! Break their lines! Her ship dived between enemy fire, launching volleys of human-modified missiles. One Dominion cruiser exploded in a blaze of blue fire. Another lost its engines and spun helplessly into the dark. Across the battle, human ships fought with creativity the aliens could not match. One crew shut down their own heat signatures, tricking alien sensors before striking from behind. Another used decoy drones to confuse enemy targeting systems. On the ground, operators guided waves of kinetic strikes from orbital platforms. Rods of tungsten rained down onto enemy ships, tearing through their weakened shields. Each impact was another victory for Earth. The turning point for hours, the battle raged. Both sides suffered heavy losses. Dozens of human ships were destroyed, and many brave soldiers gave their lives. But the Dominion suffered worse. Their fleet, once proud and mighty, now fought in desperation. Admiral Zyrex's voice echoed through his command ship. Do not retreat! Destroy them! Burn their world if you must. But Velra could see the truth. She watched human ships fight side by side, pilots shouting encouragement across languages, soldiers from every nation working as one. She whispered to herself, they are not just defending Earth, they are declaring to the galaxy that humanity has arrived. Then came the moment that broke the Dominion. Admiral Zyrex's flagship was struck by a coordinated assault from dozens of human vessels. Missiles from America, lasers from Europe, railgun rounds from Asia, and plasma stolen from Dominion technology all converged in a single devastating blow. The massive ship shuddered, cracked, and finally exploded in a blinding flash that lit the skies above Earth. The Dominion flagship was gone, retreat of the invaders. With their leader destroyed, The remaining Dominion ships faltered. Some fought on desperately, but most turned and fled into deep space. Humanity had done the impossible. They had broken the back of the greatest empire in the galaxy. Cheers erupted across Earth. In bunkers, on ships, in cities, people cried out in joy and relief. Soldiers embraced. Civilians waved flags. For the first time since the invasion began, the skies above Earth were clear. Humanity had won. Aftermath on Earth. The days that followed were filled with rebuilding, mourning, and celebration. Millions had been lost, but billions had survived. Cities scarred by plasma fire began to heal. Nations once divided now stood united as never before. In New York, a monument was built from the remains of a destroyed Dominion warship. In Moscow, families placed flowers at memorials for fallen soldiers. In Nairobi, crowds gathered to sing songs of victory. In Tokyo, children painted pictures of rockets flying proudly into space. It was not just victory, it was rebirth. Message to the Stars world leaders agreed that humanity's message must be heard beyond Earth. Using captured Dominion transmitters, they broadcast a signal across the galaxy. President Ellis spoke, joined by leaders from every continent. To any who hear this, know this truth. Earth is free. We were attacked by those who thought us weak. But we are still here. We fought together, we endured, and we won. Humanity will not be conquered. The message spread across star systems. Traders, wanderers, and even rival empires heard of the humans who had defeated the mighty Dominion. Whispers spread. If Earth could resist, perhaps others could too. Velra's choice far away, aboard a damaged Dominion ship fleeing into the dark, Velra sat in silence. She had seen the strength of humanity with her own eyes. One of her officers approached. "What now, strategist? Without Xyrix, the fleet is broken." Velra looked at the stars. The Dominion believed fear ruled all. But humanity has shown a different path: unity, courage, and hope. The galaxy will not forget this day. She knew the Dominion's reign was crumbling, and she wondered if perhaps one day she might seek out the humans not as enemies but as allies. Humanity looks forward back on Earth. General Harris stood before his soldiers. His voice carried pride and certainty. "We have won a great victory, but this is only the beginning. The galaxy now knows of us. Others will come, friends or foes. We must be ready." Maria Sanchez, now called the hero of the skies, looked at the stars. "They thought Earth was easy," she whispered. "But they were wrong. We are humanity, and we are ready for whatever comes next." The people of Earth had faced the fire of invasion and emerged stronger than ever. The galaxy had underestimated them, but now it would never forget them. Ending of Part 5. The story of Earth's defense would echo across the stars for generations. Songs would be sung, monuments built, and tales told of the time when ordinary humans stood against the most powerful empire and triumphed. The Galactic Dominion had thought Earth was weak. Instead, they had awakened a species that thrived on challenge, grew stronger with every strike, and never surrendered. And so, humanity's first war among the stars ended not in defeat, but in victory, a victory that would shape the destiny of the entire galaxy.